What's up, YouTube? Capital G here. Got a really cool duel for you guys to check out. This one is featuring one of the strangest and coolest, most unique builds of Monarchs I think I've seen in quite some time. This is actually Vision Hero Domain Monarchs, and that's gonna sound strange. Believe me, it's gonna be pretty damn strange, especially when you see some of the cards that are in this deck and when you see the deck on paper. But it's cool because it's going to make so much advantage. This actually reminds me of like a couple of years ago when Monarchs were like in their prime and everything was at 3. So I know some of you guys are probably thinking, Cap G, I can maybe get behind this crazy theory of Monarchs and Vision Heroes working together. But what are you talking about, Cap? You just told me it's a domain deck, so why is he running a card in his extra deck? Alright, so this is kind of crazy, right? But you run one Link Monster and only one copy of Alsode, the new, obviously, Noble Knight Link Monster. And I've told you guys this card is absolutely ridiculous. What it did to that Golden Six Samurai deck was absurd, like some of the plays you can do. But they're actually pretty crazy in this deck too. And believe me, when it starts rolling, you guys will see some of the plays that she allows. She is such a good card. I still don't believe she's a Noble Knight. So let's go ahead and roll this. I think he's playing against some type of Utopia deck at the top because he does have the ZW Lightning Blade in his opening hand plus Photon Thrasher. A lot of light monsters for Honest and whatnot. But he's going to go Tenacity, search a copy of Return, go Vision Hero Vion, send Malicious to the graveyard. Now he can make a Sode, and he has committed his normal summon, but check this out. He gets Karaz for free, then he sends an autonomous action unit to the graveyard. That's kind of... that's some random stuff, but it's cool because it gets Edea straight from the deck, and Edea obviously gets him a copy of Eidos, and guess what? Now he has another normal summon, and he still has 3. Like, he has multiple monsters on the board. He's going to go for Pantheism, Search. He has Domain now, which is online because he no longer has a monster in his extra deck, and now look at all the advantage he gets as he activates Erebus, Edea, and Return. So I'm looking at this opening play and I'm thinking, damn, not to mention he got Prime in the graveyard in the process. Now let's just do some quick card counting because I believe my guy has 6 cards on field and 4 cards in the hand. That would be, what, a +5 turn 1? What? He just doubled his advantage turn 1. And think about if you were playing against a deck like maybe Spiral and they didn't have Super Agent or, you know, something like a Spiral Tough to pop your domain. You honestly might have already just won the duel. I mean, he can, like, he obviously has tons of cards in his hand. He still has his Prime that is locked and loaded because he has a domain in the graveyard, and then he now has domain face up on the field as well. So I kind of felt like he won the game just based off turn 1, but his opponent is going to fire back. Luckily, he does have that Honest in his hand, so he should be able to out the Aether. He's not losing any advantage here. He's just going to pop his Eidos in his Prime, draw some more cards, summon Prime back. It's like, you know, just pretty much elementary if you've ever played Monarchs. He is going to go for Volcasaurus, I believe, and that's just going to pop the Karaz. But I never really felt like he was going to win this duel at any point, even though he got out of the domain lock. Like, look at this guy's hand. He still has easily a card that can get him. He has Tenacity in his hand. He can easily get the Stormforth. He can summon the Erebus and just spin away the Gaia. So I never felt like this guy was even in the duel. Even when he goes ahead and he activates the Solemn Strike on the Eidos, that's fine. But he searches out that copy of the Monarch Stormforth, and now he's just going to draw tons and tons of cards. Lord Darkness looks like it's actually making up for the fact that Monarchs don't have Pantheism at 3, but it doesn't matter. He's used Pantheism every single turn anyways. So he's going to go for Erebus. I think he's going to spin that ZW Blade, and I think that this is game. No, he doesn't have enough damage to quite end the duel here. Not playing multiple Link Monsters because, again, you don't want to play so many Link Monsters that your domain is shut down. You pretty much want to get Alsode on the field turn 1. Even if she dies, she's no longer in your extra deck, and you're perfectly, like, you have your domains online. So uses Monarch Stormforth, didn't even need to do that. The game was well in hand, and it really felt like he overwhelmed his opponent turn 1, and even with the duel at its conclusion, the guy still had 5 cards in his opening hand as he just cycles through all of these monsters and whatnot. So I'm going to pause the video for a second. I'm going to show you guys what this crazy deck looks like on paper. So this is what the deck looks like on paper, and it still really looks like a fundamentally solid version of Domain Monarchs. I think that's one of the biggest things that I like about this deck. You really don't have to add that much to it for you to get those awesome and creative plays. You see that really only like 7 cards have been added to the deck, but it's really nice because all of these cards you add to the deck, they give cards that you already were running, they give them like pretty much dual utility. I'll give you guys some examples, right? So obviously Monarchs have always ran reinforcements of the army, because it gets you your Edea. Well, now if you happen to open with Edea, you can obviously search your Vision Herald Viant so you can get to this card quicker. Foolish Burial was another card that Monarchs always ran because it could dump Erebus in the graveyard. You could search out Erebus. It could dump Edea to the graveyard. She would activate, and that would just be really nice to get you something like Pantheism back. Well, now you can do the same thing, Foolish Burial into Malicious, and summon that straight from the deck and maybe go into Asade. The only equips you do run is the copy of Autonomous Action Unit. Maybe you could argue that you could run 2 copies of this so that if you draw it, you could still use Alsade. I mean, that is kind of just up to you, but I feel like this is just a nice little fresh take on Monarch. You really don't have to add that much to get a lot of potential, and I'm telling you guys, this card is incredibly good, and we will have this card February in Extreme Force, so, you know, look out for this deck.